It's been 7 months since I bought this phone, and let me tell you, it's been a ride. There are some serious problems with the Nothing Phone 2A and the 2A Plus, and I want to express my opinion here. I will try to keep this video as unbiased as possible and try to compliment Nothing on where they have done a good job and where they have not. Okay, without wasting any further time, let's just start with the pros. Number 1, this phone is pretty. At least I think so, but that's subjective, so I'll leave for you to judge. The software experience on this phone is pretty good. Nothing OS is an amazing software experience, at least in my opinion. The videography on this phone is pretty good. It's got 4K 30 FPS for both the main and the ultra-wide cameras. Its battery life is also pretty good, even though some people have had problems with the software updates. Its glyphs are pretty cool, I mean, they glow. This one's a bit of a nerdy one, but its bootloader is easily unlockable, which I like, even though there are no custom ROMs for it yet. Now that we have gone on with the pros, let's talk about the reason I'm making this video as a whole. See, I'm no content creator, I just upload whatever I feel like on this channel. I use this channel when I want to express my feelings. So there is a reason I'm making this. The cons of this phone aren't just normal cons. I mean, every phone has cons and you can manage them, but this phone, I have no idea how nobody has noticed this. But the display on this phone just sucks. I am genuinely mad at the people reviewing this phone and not noticing a single thing that is off of the display, and going on complimenting this phone like it's some messiah savior of smartphones that Nothing has produced. Now, before blabbering about the display, I would like to mention some other cons that I think are cons. Now, I have said that the videography on this phone is good, but this phone has a bad camera, and what I mean by that is the photography, and most of the time you will be taking photos. So the photos on this phone are pretty mediocre for its price, and even with a Gcam, it's not that much of an upgrade, I'd say, unless you use some kind of XML. So yeah, the performance of this phone is kind of mediocre. I mean, I have said that the software experience of this phone is pretty good, but when you swipe from like the animations, they oftentimes stutter. So those are the other minor cons, or major if you want to call them, besides the actual con I'm going to talk about in this video. Now, before proceeding, let me just tell you about the display manufacturers of this phone, which are number 1 BOE and number 2 VisionOX. Now, the BOE display in this phone is absolute garbage, and that's the display unfortunately most people are getting. And if you have this phone and have all the issues already that I'm going to mention, and you think that it's a defective unit and you're going to try and replace it, well, unfortunately this is just apparently how the phone is. Most people are getting the BOA display, which kind of makes it not a defective unit, and if you still want to call it defective, the phone itself is kind of defective then. So yeah. Now, the other VisionOX display I'm going to talk about has only a slight green tint. It doesn't have a lot of problems, but also unfortunately most of the people don't have this display, which is being manufactured by VOX or VisionOX. So if you actually have no problems with your phone, then you probably either are not noticing them or have a VisionOX display. Now I'm gonna proceed to tell you the problems that both displays have and how you can identify your display. So the problems with the BOE panel are: number 1, black smearing; number 2, purple smearing; number 3, an aggressive green tint. This can vary device to device, but it usually is more aggressive than the VOX panels. And 4, HDR color issues. When you play HDR content, you will notice a weird color blending happening with you, and it would just ruin the experience. Now, Nothing has tried to fix this problem, and they have barely even mentioned it, but they have kind of tried to fix it. So their fix is just adding a pure black theme on the lock screen where the green tint is visible, and they have not even mentioned the other issues, which are black smearing, aggressive purple smearing, and HDR. They have absolutely not talked about them once. But with the green tint, they have applied a black theme on the lock screen so that it doesn't show, like, it's still there, it just doesn't show up as aggressive as it did before. But even then, if you just check the QS panel, you would still notice it. So I don't get why they're calling it a fix. Now, if you have VisionOX, you would basically not have any of these issues besides a small green tint when you turn down the brightness all the way down on the lock screen. So for you, this phone can actually be pretty good. But let me just tell you how to identify your problems. So the best way to do this is just play any video which is HDR and just play them and see if you have weird color thingies on your while you're playing it. If you don't notice any weird color blending and shit happening, you probably have a Vision OS display. And if you have like a very tiny green tint when you turn down the brightness at the lock screen, then you have a Vision OS display. But for unfortunately most people, you will notice weird colors while playing HDR content and all of the other issues I mentioned. Now, if you are a rooted user, you can directly check it by installing this app called Device Info HW. You have to give it root permissions, and then you have to find the parameter called LCM. Now, if it says VOX, so then your phone is obviously Vision OS. If it says something like BOE Radium, then your phone is BOE. Now, the solution. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of solutions for this. You can try applying some color filter to maybe turn down the green tint. I have made a video on that. It may help or it may not, depending on your device. But for now, I think you should probably try to go to the nearest service center and try to negotiate with them and try to get your display replaced. So if you're thinking of buying this phone, you know what to do. Please don't buy this phone. Just wait for the 3A to come, and maybe when this phone gets older and maybe there are like no units of the BOE left and you're sure it's just the Vision OS displays now, maybe then you can buy it. Or if you're gonna buy it second hand, there can be a chance that it's VOX, so just ask the reseller who's selling you the phone to check all of these things I just mentioned. And if it is VOX, then congrats. It's pretty good if you have the VOX panel, in my opinion.